Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm the Fantasy Clown along with Trader Dan. Welcome, Dan. Week 14. Jeez, all done.
Yeah, so it's wrapping up. Season's wrapping up. Happy fan today.
Whew, the coffee tasting good at your house in the playoffs in almost every league, right?
Well, yeah. I got my league that I have, that little 8-team league. I still have to win this week to get in, but I've been on a have to win for the last 4 weeks in that league. So it's what happens. You start off 0-4. But yeah, for the most part, most of my dynasty leagues I got in. So I'm happy about that. Couple bye weeks. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice to have a couple bye weeks. Let my brain kind of
give your brain a little bit of time off. Well, today we're going to look at the TheMaquisMauler's team, and as I'm pulling up some teams, he has one team that I'm in a league with him, and it looks like he's the 1 seed, and I'm actually the 2 seed in that league. So we both have a bye week in a league that we're not looking at that team, but he has another team here that we are going to take a peek at, and as an apology to him, we can't see the IDP part of the league, so we're only going to be able to kind of outline the offensive players. But it looks like his team was 4-9. He finished in 10th place out of 12 teams. So, I always ask people to say, hey, give us your stuff that you think doesn't, didn't perform to the level that you wanted to. And, he's kind of here, and you can sort of see his points for at 2103. So kind of the top guy was 2743 with a 12-1 record. So, really in a 12-team league, really a piece of being kind of at the bottom here, and playing against a couple of names that I see as familiar to me. Matty, Rob, and Scott and Mule Team, all part that play in other leagues with me. So I'm familiar with some of these names, and, pretty good players, I think, here. This is just to kind of set the stage, Dan, and then we'll kind of bring you into kind of some of the things maybe you would do. It looks like a 1 quarterback league. And so, I guess I kind of revert back to some old school thinking. When you have 1 quarterback league, 1 tight end league, then it comes down to, how do you deal with your running backs and your receivers. It looks like two running backs, 3 receivers, 2 flex is how the team is constructed there. And so just kind of taking a peek at this is what he had in his starting lineup this week, so you can kind of take a peek at that, and then maybe we'll just, glance over some of the quarterbacks in his quarterback room, and then we'll get your impressions. And when I look at the quarterbacks, he's got Mac Jones, Malik Willis, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Aiden O'Connell, Aaron Rodgers, and so quite a lot of quarterbacks there. Yeah. In my opinion, for a 1 quarterback league, wouldn't you think? Or
I agree. And it's not a super flex either, right? Or
no, there's no super flex. So it's just 1 quarterback.
And you kind of got some guys there that it would be tough to start, even if they did start. You know what I mean? It'd be a tough trust. You're almost better off trying to bank on, picking up like a Keaton Mitchell or something like that early before, and using him as a roster spot as opposed to Malik Willis at this point, or even Aiden O'Connell with a 1 QB league.
Well, and I know you're high on Johnson from the Jaguars, for instance, and I know in my 1 quarterback leagues, I'm picking up guys like that. I mean, as we get into waiver wire this week with maybe somebody like Josh Jacobs being out, obviously Zamir White is probably gone in leagues like this, but I'm picking up Abdullah, like in my 1 quarterback leagues, I'm just soaking my roster with guys like that. I mean, I'd almost rather, get Reynolds from Detroit and, these backup running backs that, I might.
Yeah, Zach Evans, Isaiah Spillers,
just filling up the roster with that. So that would be my first recommendation as I look here. I mean, you're going to keep Aaron Rodgers because you can probably put him on IR. You're going to keep Russell Wilson, and then the rest of it doesn't matter. To be honest, you're going to start those 2 guys, and the only reason you have both of them really is because Aaron Rodgers is on an IR, and then you just kind of go with 2 guys, and there really isn't a whole lot of reason for the rest of the guys. I guess I'm thinking back to my 1 quarterback dynasty league, and I was thinking about it today. I dropped Jordan Love a couple years ago, and I just have Lamar Jackson, and that's it. And
Right.
I picked up for a spot start. I picked up Derek Carr this year off of waivers for one start, and then he's back to waivers again. Like no need for him anymore, for the bye week, and I just kind of pick up somebody like that for a 1 week, situation.
Yeah.
So that would be my. So I'm kind of on the same page with you there. Looking at the running backs, does have kind of an in-between running back room. McIntosh, Jonathan Taylor, there's quality, but he's hurt. Fournette, Najee Harris, Ty Chandler, who I think is going to start this week. We got Samaje P. Ryan, James Robinson, Darrell Henderson, Evan Hall, Pierce Strong. What do you see when you look at that?
I can only see up until James Robinson on my screen.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, we've got a couple more. We got Darrell Henderson, Evan Hall,
okay.
Strong. So not much else.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
Obviously Jonathan Taylor's still in that prime point where he's still got a lot of value. He's still pretty marketable. He's still, when healthy, a top 5 running back. He's a good piece to build around. But then when you start looking down the list, he's kind of a little bit all over the board on, some age where it's got P. Ryan at 27, Leonard Fournette at 28. Guys, I don't think that it's going to be tough to help a team that's only got 4 wins. Najee, with the timeshare with Jaylen Warren right now, is kind of a guy I probably would have traded away a while back once I realized I had probably wasn't going to make the playoffs. That's a guy I probably would have moved on from earlier, try to recoup some draft capital, maybe send him to a guy who had like a Tajay Spears or somebody who wasn't performing at that point, a little bit younger, and try to grab a little draft capital on the backside of that. And at that time, Najee could have helped the team win. And then, you go draft yourself a young receiver, another young running back that you could fall in the second round, like Charbonnet or A-Chain did this year. And then you have Tajay Spears to kind of go with it. And that would have been the route I would have went at that point. And then just some of those other guys just really don't have much value. You know what I mean? They're clogging roster holes just like some of the quarterbacks are doing.
But I will say this. I will say that I think sometimes this has a lot of roster spots. So you're going to have these guys that you kind of can't trade because nobody wants them, and yet you can't drop them because they're better than zeros. You know what I mean? And so I can see where that could become a problem, but I would just encourage more youth. If you could figure out a way to get that Tajay Spears for a Najee Harris in a second or something, third, But also I was going to kind of look here at my one quarterback league, but I sort of remember that draft capital doesn't go very far in those one quarterback leagues, because once you start taking the first round pick, those quarterbacks out of the first round, I guess I remember guys like Tajay Spears being first round picks in leagues like that. And so all of a sudden, it gets deep real quick. You get pretty deep into the running back room, at least in my league, so quick that, I remember last year I took Dameon Pierce with the number 104 pick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, James Cook was 103 last year.
Yeah.
And so they're so elevated over, in those kind of leagues. So just kind of something to keep in mind when you go there. Looking at the receivers, he's got this some young guys, but I guess I feel like a lot of old guys too. He's got Tyquan Thornton, Justin Ross, who just started playing yesterday for the Chiefs, Odell Beckham, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Nakua, Garrett Wilson, Debo, and Calvin Austin. I like some of that. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got Puka. I mean, name another rookie receiver you'd rather have more than him right now. So if you scooped him late second round, early third round, I mean, you're looking nice. Cooper Kupp obviously he's had a down year. Is he declining? I would say, I mean, after the last couple of years, how high his fantasy value was. I guess it's got to peak and start to come back the other way at some point. So maybe I don't know if I would necessarily want to be going into next year with him. Early's banking on him. And then you see guys like Odell Beckham who, starting to see a resurgence from last year, after all the injuries he's had. He's really come on late as of late. And then you got, I mean, Garrett Wilson, reigning Rookie of the Year MVP, to go with Puka, who could be the offensive MVP this year. Maybe Stroud or somebody probably get it, but he's going to be in the conversation. And then a guy like Debo is one of those guys that just seems like he, minus the injury of last year, it just seems like he's progressively getting better year after year after year. And he's got that. He's built like a running back playing wide receiver, and I think that's going to help his career. I think. Having that type of frame, that type of run style, because he doesn't get a lot of banging on his body, with the sets that they offer him. But I think Debo's a guy that he can still finish wide receiver 10 and help you next year. So he's not a guy I don't think I move on from right now with that other young wide receiver group that you have.
I'm looking at this at the team in general, and there's 3 players here that I would say that are my favorite part of the team so far that we've looked at, and that's Puka, Garrett Wilson, and Debo. And they're not going any. And this is my team, those 3 are like virtually untouchable.
Right.
I'm probably not going to sell Justin Ross or Calvin Austin just because the return on investment isn't high enough. And I'm probably looking for Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods for a chance to kind of sell them after a big game. Now we're probably past the trading deadline in this league for now, and I get that. So, we're just hoping that they have a nice playoff run, any of those guys, or down the stretch, or somebody, kind of gets a little bit excited and there's a place to move. And if they don't play in the playoffs, like in Cooper Kupp's situation, if he isn't on the playoff team, or Robert Woods, maybe they sign a contract with somebody new next year, maybe something happens in their NFL career that there's just a moment in time, or maybe they ball out in training camp or some good press, and you just wait for the moment and you just kind of sell them for that extra pick. And maybe it's just after the 2024 draft, you sell them for a second in 2025. You just start to play it out a little bit to just kind of start hedging the bets when the draft picks aren't worth very much in the future, and you just kind of say, I'm going to restock the cupboard a little bit. And
it's also not a bad idea if you're trying to move around the draft board. Like, those are good pieces to have, because if you're trying to trade up in the second round, and you're like, I got Robert Woods in my second. If I can move up 3 spots and I can get the guy that I want, okay, maybe that guy goes for that. Or even if you sell an Odell Beckham in your second to move up 3-4 picks to get the guy that you want, you feel it can help you. It's nice to have those kind of guys who are still expendable on your roster.
I would caution, though, that kind of a move, because I feel like the guy that we think is good in the second round is just as likely to take the guy you get 3 spots behind, because a lot of times, you move up to go get Kincaid and you give up on Laporta. Like that's a real thing that happens all the time. And or you move up to go get Henry Ruggs and you give up Justin Jefferson. Like that stuff happens so often that I hate to give away Cooper Kupp to go get Henry Ruggs like that, and I basically mentally I just have trouble with that. So I'd almost rather give up Cooper Kupp for next year's second and third that are just so far out. They're so darts. They're not worth much. And then, maybe I do draft a dud, but at least it's some dud way out. And I probably am getting a little bit more value than I would just moving up a couple spots. And, I think people were just so wrong in the draft. I mean, that's what I find. I find that,
this guy's obviously picked a couple diamonds. I mean, he's got Puka on his roster. Which that's a tough pickup. You know what I mean? He's hard to project. He was around all those other receivers, Josh Downs, all those guys. Kind of, he picked the right one. So maybe he does know what he's doing later.
Well, I think Puka was around later, than Downs. I think. Yeah, I think you take. I think if you draft enough players, I don't know that you moved. I don't know many people moved up to get Puka. I think they just kind of took him because it was the spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Take him. And that would be the other thing is, I could see people saying, oh, man, I got to chase Josh Downs and trading the Puka pick to go get Josh Downs. Like, I think that's a real trade that happened out there. So I guess I always caution moving up unless there's maybe moving up for a positional need. Like maybe you're moving up and you say, hey, I need a running back and I'm going to give up this and this is a quarterback spot or this is a tight end spot and I need this position. I can see doing that because that player is going to go. But I would say, hey, sell it out to the future, especially on a team like this where you have this wide receiver depth. And I would come hell or high water. I'm not getting rid of a 21-year-old Nakua, 22-year-old Wilson. And just the way this team is formulated, like you said, Dan, I think Debo's on the uptick, and normally he's above my age threshold, but I'm going to keep him here to try to
he could
really
be a Keenan Allen type player, 30s producing.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
On the tight ends, and I know that you and I both like Michael Mayer, but he's got Mayer and Hayward and Latu and Darnell Washington.
How many tight ends do they start in this league?
It's just a one tight end start. I mean, we can't see if it's a premium, but it looks like again the onesie position. I would also say here again, I would have Mayer, and I guess you have to have. You can't really drop Knox and Likely, and I guess I understand the Washington. The other two, I'm not sure that they're ever going to amount to much. Maybe they are, but I guess I'm going to fill it up with running backs probably, or maybe flyer receivers that I think have a lot of upside, but it looks like it's deep. I mean, I will say that it looks like a deep league. Maybe it's, got lots of really shallow waiver wire, and maybe there's not much here, I would say. But looking at the team, I guess I can see why it's really struggling.
Yeah.
And I did take a peek, just, we don't have this on the screen, but just kind of what the best team in the league looks like. And, the best team in the league's got Jalen Hurts as his quarterback, and he's got ETN and Swift as his running backs, and Tyreek Hill, CD Lamb, AJ Brown as his receivers, Njoku and as his tight end with Evan Ingram and Devontae Adams in the flex. So you can tell the difference of what a championship team looks like compared to what's here, I guess you could say. And I guess I think to myself, and when I looked at his tight end room just to kind of get a feel for it, he's got Njoku and Ingram. He's got two.
Right.
His quarterback room, he's got Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Sam Howell. He's got three.
Right.
And then he's got this he's got a fair amount of running backs.
Yeah. But see how fast that they get hurt and
that's kind of how he built a team that really is 12-1. So that would be my take, is to try to keep young, and younger even yet, and really just try to accumulate draft picks, more dart throws. I want a ton, because in April when we draft, or May when we draft, I want a ton, and I want the problem to be I got 15 too many players on draft day, seriously. And that way when they get hurt in the summer, they get cut in the summer, we see what their roles are. It's okay. I can just start moving around, and I don't have to be so perfect if I have all those draft picks. So that would be my encouragement for this team, TheMaquisMauler. And, he's got 2 leagues here on Sleeper. So, and the other one, he's ranked number 1. So he probably doesn't need my help to figure out how to get to the number 1 spot. But that would be my recommendation.
He knows what he's doing.
of how to, proceed forward with this team and get it to the top of the spot. And I'm going to just do a shout out. I'm going to try to beat him this year in that league. He's ranked number 1 because I'm ranked number 2. And it's kind of funny. It has a quarterback cap. So, it's one of those kind of leagues that caps the quarterbacks.
The Ed Smith law.
So they try to make the rule again to make sure I don't have too many quarterbacks. So, and I'm
I like that. There's a spot that opens up in that league. Let me know.
Well, what's really funny is, I guess in my mind, is that that I'm kind of thinking that's probably a rule against the way I play, and here I am as getting a bye week in the second year of operation there. So, it's pretty able to navigate that rule change pretty quickly. So, pretty proud of that. But I digress. So, I guess that's our breakdown for the TheMaquisMauler. So good luck with your team over the offseason. We'll be anxious to see how it does in the future.